right, Cowboy Nation. Really appreciate you all for being part of this day. All right, so Patrick Peterson conversation. Should the Cowboys entertain that? I'm going to tell you guys, yes. The Cowboys should entertain the Patrick Peterson, especially if he's willing to transition over to a strong safety or a safety in general, free safety, whatever safety role that they can find him to be a part of, that will be fantastic. Now, in a pinch, can he show the way to the young guys? Whoever we draft in this upcoming draft, yes. And can he help out Trayvon Diggs? Oh, most certainly. So the Cowboys should take a strong look at Peterson. Now, I do know that some of his skill set may have diminished in certain ways. I do know that we can look at him versus shiftier wide receivers and things like that he had issues with. But what I'm looking for out of a Patrick Peterson is knowledge, understanding of the game, and being able to translate his information over to the other guys on this defense. I believe Patrick Peterson will also help out the linebackers, will also help out the front, because I know that you look at it and you'll say, well, wait a minute, Law, he's a defensive back. He's not a front four guy. All of this stuff works together. Teams will play Patrick Peterson different, and especially if we can find that mentor, that person that can work, let me say again, that person that can work with the younger guys and show them the ropes, show them the way. That's the way I'm looking at Patrick Peterson. And that is the way the Cowboys should look at Patrick Peterson. Now, the Adoree Jackson, that kid, I believe in the hearts of hearts, we need an athletic kid, a specimen like that on this team. Speed kills, we know that. But we also, he got a little veteranship to him because he's been in the league for a minute. So should the Cowboys entertain that? Yes. Leave no stone unturned. Even if it's Richard Sherman, even if it's Casey Hayward, all of those guys, bring them in, figure this thing out, because the worst thing that can happen, Cowboys heading into this 2021 season with a bunch of rookies and trying to figure this thing out, building the plane while it's in the air, and watching these players get burnt left and right and left. We need to have some type of substance. I was talking last night on the live, really appreciate everybody that was watching and who contribute to that thing. I was sitting here saying that, hey, what's the identity of the Dallas Cowboys? What is the identity? I'm gonna wait. What do we bring to the table? Because the Washington team, they established that identity just like that in 1 year. The Washington football team, defensive-minded team. They got a defensive head coach, and they've poured upon that philosophy all throughout their team. So when you facing the Washington team, you already know, hey, the defense, they're coming at us. They're going to have the front. They're going to be ready. They're going to try to shut you down, eliminate opportunities for your team to score, try to punch you in the mouth, these sorts of things. You got to establish something. So what did we establish last year, right? Too much of back and forth, 3-4, 4-3 type of groove, right? Oh, on the offensive side of the ball, are we a run-first team, pass-happy team, West Coast, vertical stretch type of offense? We got to figure this thing out. Now, I know I'm from the outside looking in. We're far from any way of telling the Joneses how to run the organization. We can only hope for it, dream for it. But this is what I'm hoping for this year, 2021, that they come into this thing and establishing something. Dan Quinn, establish something. Mike McCarthy, even if you have to snatch the playbook away from Kellen Moore, baby, you got to establish something. And even on the special teams, when the ball is at the 50-yard line, when we get onto our side, we're approaching our territory, are you going to be more of an aggressive type of mindset? Are you playing or are you settling for the field goal? Are you going to be one of those type of teams that gambles and wheel and deal on every situation? Or will we have a punt kicker that can change and flip the field, or kickoff returner that everybody looking at it and saying to themselves, man, we don't want to kick the ball his way? That is what I'm saying. The Dallas Cowboys must establish something. They do. They got to look at this thing and say, all right, cool. We got rid of the such and such players. Now, I don't know whether or not they're going to keep Jordan Lewis. I don't know whether or not what the talk tracks will be with Xavier Woods. But, man, oh, man, they better come up with some type of solution quicker before they get to this draft. Now, according to most of the front office and things like that, we've been one of those teams that sit back in this free agency and we wait. We're like a spider. And the spider don't go out there and hunt for his prey. It just sits there and it casts his web and expecting the, prey to come to them. Well, Dallas Cowboys, here's the problem with that. Nobody is willing to come to Dallas these days. I wonder why. Now, we can talk about, hey, it's because they're not in a competitive type of market. But, and competing, being in the playoff from year to year, but that's a story of a different day. Something that the Joneses are not willing to do. And just like I said last night on the stream, we had a good conversation. If you never thought to bake an apple pie, for dog it, you would not even look up the recipe to do such, right? So the Dallas Cowboys, their philosophy in this free agency is never thinking about, hey, we need to develop the interior, the defensive linemen, because the game is won and lost down in the trenches. See, that's not even on their radar. It's not even of their mindset. So all of this stuff, what the Cowboys been doing is sitting back, casting their web, and hoping that some of the free agencies say, okay, we'll come your way. We'll get stuck in your web. But what the other organizations and free agent guys would do is say, hey, we like Cowboys, but they use that only as leverage and take that pot of gold and go elsewhere, up their own pricing. See, the Cowboys got to get aggressive. If they really want that apple pie, they got to start looking for the recipe. They got to start comparing and seeing how other people are making their apple pie, if I can use that as an analogy. You see, when we looked at Malcolm Brown, everybody was saying, I've seen people on the Twitterverse, one of the guys was going back and forth with Jeff Kavanaugh about, hey, Malcolm Brown, he's a rotational guy. He won't be that much of a difference maker as a rotational guy. Newsflash, Antoine Woods, no shot or no shade or salt thrown at him, but he's a starter. And even Malcolm Brown, as the rotational guy, got more production as this guy as the starter. But we got to make this thing make sense. Now, I do know that Malcolm Brown is gone, but the other team picked him up for $11 million, stretched over 2 years. That's equivalent to $5.5 million a year. Cowboys couldn't find that money. So we got to figure out ways to wheel and deal, Cowboy Nation. We got to figure out ways to get out of the philosophy and build this team the right way. Establish the identity. Now, Jerry and John Stephen Jones, all of those guys over there in their front office, Will McClay too, Chris Hall and all of those boys, they got to sit down and say, okay, what the hell type of team are we? That's all I'm saying on that aspect of it. We can't just be hoping, and the quote out there, Jerry was talking about, hey, we're a better team on defense just because we got Dan Quinn. Better in what ways? How? What are you saying? Are you ranked from the 32nd to now to the 31st or to the 30th defense? Or are you ranked from the 32nd, 31st? Now you're going to say, okay, we top 25, baby. Look, we got to change that philosophy. We got to figure this thing out. Just by namesake, don't win you things. You got to earn your time. You got to grind. You got to plan, Cowboy Nation. Y'all already know those who fail to plan to fail. Figure this thing out. If we decide to go out there and pull the trigger on a Patrick Peterson, that would be a first good move for us, because now we got knowledge and understanding. Or even if we go into this particular free agency, Not saying that we need to bring in people just because of namesake, but we need to bring in people that can bring results. Remember this, write this down, Cowboy Nation. Everyone have a reason, but results are what matter. That's been my time. I really thank you all for yours. And remember, you're listening to nothing but the best. Go Cowboys. Get these results in, baby. Let's go. We out.
Hulk smash!